the head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks, Chad Morris.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's amazing what happens when you're undefeated. And really, you know, and people have asked me, have I seen the full entire clip of that? And I guess I've missed a few of those, but you know, obviously you can tell right there that there was a proud mom and dad in the bunch. You know, mom never thinks I did anything wrong, and but my dad was exactly right, and I'll get into that. And some of you probably heard and maybe listened Monday when I was speaking, and I've heard so many, you know, Coach, you're going to say the same thing. And I said, well, I'm going to try not to. But here's what I am going to do. I am going to let you know that whatever we do, and our standard at the University of Arkansas is best, and you're going to get my absolute best today. And I just appreciate what you do. I appreciate our touchdown club in our city. And what you do in Northwest Arkansas and the impacts of lives that you make and the contributions that you make to be a part of this club and a part of this group that impact high school students and communities all over Northwest Arkansas. So thank you. As a former high school coach, and I am a high school football coach, and I take great pride in that, and I want to wish Coach Conway and definitely wish Coach Clark the best. And I know we've got several staffs here today, and I know your season's getting started. This is always a great time of year. Someone, Coach Shelnut actually told me, he said, listen, he said, a fresh start's always a year away. And that's the greatest thing about this profession, and that is we've got a fresh start in front of us. I do want to recognize and honor, I know it's been a little over a year ago, the passing of Coach Broyles, and man, what a great tribute. The video that was out, that was released a week ago, and had a chance to meet his family, and I actually had a chance to meet Coach several times at clinics, and I was starstruck when I met him. And thank you for the impact that y'all have had on the University of Arkansas and all over our great state, and I promise you I'm not going to let you down. And I'm going to uphold that to the best of our ability, and just so excited to be here and be a part of this. And I want to talk a little bit about a culture, our culture and what we're about. And everybody has culture. You got a culture in your business, you got a culture at your home, you got a culture at your church. Culture is nothing more than a belief that drives a behavior that produces a result. I'm going to say that again. Culture is nothing more than a belief that drives a behavior that produces a result. And as I've shared with our players when I took the job over in early December, I said, if you don't like the results you're getting, obviously 4-8 is not acceptable, and it doesn't matter who the head football coach is, 4-8 is not acceptable for the University of Arkansas. It's not. If you don't like the results you're getting, you might need to look at the behavior. And so we reverse engineer that, and we talk about the reverse engineering effects of change your behavior will change your results. And so we've worked extremely hard to get to that point and where we are today. But before we get going into that, I want to tell you a little bit about me and a little bit about how I got here today and being a part of being a head football coach at the University of Arkansas. My dad was exactly right. My dad would always call me. My dad calls me 2 or 3 times a week, and as a matter of fact, when I look at my phone and he's wanting to know about the game plan and who's the quarterback going to be, Chad, and who's this and who's that, and I'm like, Dad, look, I don't know. Well, tell me, what are we going to run on the first play? And so so my dad calls me when all this was coming into play, and I said, Dad, listen, I said, that's the one. And there was a lot of things that are happening at that point in time in late November and early December. I said, Dad, I'll walk backwards to Fayetteville. That's how much I feel like this program is a sleeping giant. This program's a gold mine. So just kind of dialing it back just a little bit, tell you just quickly about me. Married for 25 years to my wife, Paula. We dated 4 years prior to that, and she had a year left to finish college, and so I said I'd majored in math and minored in statistics, and Jack Shelnut was my math teacher, was just so happened to be the toughest coach that I had been a part of. Pushed me far beyond limits. As a matter of fact, there was many days I didn't care for Coach Shelnut. But he drove me unlike any other. He saw something in me that no one else did. And outside of my mom and dad, he and Coach Whiting and Coach McInturf and Coach Jameson. Coach Jameson was a young coach when he started coaching me, and he actually came from Arkansas. And he would always tell me about the Hogs. And I'd like, Coach, and I was kind of raised and grew up that I was going to go to a school in the central part of the state. And and I was like, okay, Coach, you bet. He's man them Hogs. Talked about the Hogs all the time. So when I got the job here, he's at the spring game. He's heading to Colorado State with my dad. He's so passionate about it. But coaches have made a huge, huge impact in my life. And but been married for 25 years. We have 2 children. Mackenzie, which is a senior at a different school in the center part of the state of Texas. And she's a senior. And it'll take her 4 years to figure it out, but she'll be coming up here after she graduates. And she came up and spent most of the summer with us, worked in our recruiting office, and met some fabulous people, fabulous friends. And she can't wait to come up here and join us in May and start working on her master's. But I did inform her that the University of Arkansas is paying for that education to that school in the center part of the state. But we got a son. My son's name's Chandler. He is a junior in high school and very fortunate to be a coach's kid, being around this business for as long as he has, and being surrounded by so many quality players and coaches. And as we all know, if you have children, you'll understand this. It takes a village. It truly takes a village to raise kids. And we have a huge responsibility. I have a huge responsibility to impact lives. Not just my own 2 kids, but lives of the 120 that I'm so entrusted to develop, far more than just becoming a better football player. See, football is just what I do. It's not who I am. And you got a chance to see some of it. So my best friend right there, Chris Mattingly. He also runs our foundation, and he'll be at every ball game. He's a principal. He's an educator, he and his wife. And, man, he's definitely a huge part of who I am. But we have a huge obligation as we impact lives, and Paula and I both understand that. And, so much of who we are is about giving back. But, I had a chance to travel across this great state and see the passion level of our fans. And I got a radio show tonight, and I know we're sold out here. We were sold out Monday, sold out tonight. I got another event on Friday morning that they're sold out about. And let me just tell you this. It's not about me. Matter of fact, it's the furthest thing from about me. It's sold out because there's an energy level. It's sold out because there's a passion. It's sold out because there's players that are working their tail that understand that 4-8 is not acceptable. And they want to do something about it. It's sold out because there's a hunger. And there's a hunger level in this state and in our community to see the Razorback football program get back to the top. And it's going to take 3 things really to get it back. And if you follow with me on this, I was raised on a farm, so I'll reference back to a lot of the farming that my dad taught me so much about. But it's about cultivating. How you cultivate the soil. You don't go out and you don't just dig a hole and put a tree in, or you don't go out and dig a hole and put seeds in and expect to grow a great product. You got to cultivate the soil. You got to work the soil. You got to till it. You got to fertilize it. You got to get the soil prepped and ready. Then you plant. You got the planting stage. And in that planting stage, sometimes the planting stage takes the longest. You get the growth that happens, but it's not happening quick enough. Then you get as it starts to grow, and all of a sudden you start seeing some of the fruits on the trees, and you start realizing, okay, now the harvest is there. And so these young men have been working extremely hard over the last 7-8 months to get into that cultivating and that planting stage and watching this football team grow. But so as we start and we get into this week and getting ready for game week, and you start, man, you just feel it. I was telling the players yesterday and at practice, I said, you can just see it, you can feel it, you can smell it on campus. It's there. Football season is right on top of us, and there's not a better time of year than right now. As high school seasons are starting this week, this is a great time of year to be a part of Northwest Arkansas and what we're about. our area has produced some fabulous players, and I'm extremely excited about that. 10 guys on our football team right now, not just walk-ons, but 10 guys that are major impact players are on our football team. And guys like Dre Greenlaw, C.J. O'Grady, Ty Clary, Jack Lindsay, these guys are making a huge impact on this team, but not just on the field, but also off the field. And so when we talk about building this program, we're talking about recruiting and starting at home. And right here and right now in Northwest Arkansas. But again, just quickly about me, and I want to lead into some of the other things that I want to share with you. But and I talked briefly about my mom and dad and the impact they've made on my life. And my two kiddos, they're around. They'll be up and back. And of course, Chandler and Paula are staying back. And he's got an opportunity to do some special things and planning a great program. And but we're excited. We're extremely excited about being the head football coach. And relationships are what got me here. Relationships with friends, relationships with our families, and building those relationships one day at a time is what's got me to being the head football coach at the University of Arkansas. But as we go and we get into this and start talking about the values and the lessons that we're bringing and we're teaching every day. I have to go back to that video, and you saw my mom and dad right there. My dad was a fireman, and actually was in the police force for 20 years, and had an opportunity to transfer over and become a firefighter his last 12 to 15 years there in Richardson. And as most firefighters do, they always have 2 and 3, 4 jobs on the side. You work 24, you're off 48. So my dad had a paint contracting business. A lot of you have heard my story about the peach trees and living on that farm and planting those peach trees and understanding how to prune and thin and creating a product that was worth quality, not quantity. And so as I share with our players every day, it's about the quality of work you put in, not the quantity you put in. And so if you're going to do something, you're going to do it right. My mom would always tell me, Chad, if it's worthy of your time, it's worthy of your best time. And so those values are the same values that I'm trying to instill in our staff, which is trying to instill in our players. But my dad would paint houses. And we would travel all over the Dallas area, and he had a huge paint contracting business. And I couldn't understand, he would say, well, we got to get this house ready. Well, I always thought you just go to Sharon Williams paint store, you buy the paint, you put the paint on the house. And we would spend more time prepping this house to get it ready to paint than we ever would painting the house. And so he would put me up on the ladder, and we would caulk the creases, and then there would be little joists that would come together, and we would put screen molding up to cover it up, and then caulk the edges. And I just kept thinking, Dad, what are we doing? Why are we doing all this? And he said, listen, Chad, he said, it's about and I'll never forget, I'll come back to that, but one of the worst, I got in trouble one time, unmerciful, was because my dad was going on another job, and he left Chris and I to paint this house or get it ready, and we halfway did it. We were just, okay, we called it show. Let's just put a little caulk up there. We'll show you, Dad, that we're doing a little bit of work here. And man, he came back and he threw a fit, and he said, look, quit, get out of here. I'm going to do this. And he taught me right there. He said, look, if you're going to do this, these people are expecting your absolute best every day. And the value that you bring and the care and the love and what you put into something is what you're going to get out of it. I learned a valuable lesson that day, and that was the fact that whatever you do, pour everything you got into it, because that's what it's going to take. And it goes back to that culture. What is the culture that you have? What's the culture that your family has? What's the culture that this football program is being built on right now? And it's nothing more than a belief. And it has to start with accountability. And so the values of what my parents and our high school coaches, and Coach, I know I'm talking to several coaches in here right now, but the responsibility that you have, that we have, to impact lives every single day. And days when you don't feel like it, or days when you don't think you're making a huge impact, that's the days you're making the biggest impact. Henry Carter, you saw him on the video right there. I coached Henry. I actually coached him, and he worked for me for 10 years. But let me back up about Henry. Henry's dad took me in 1992 when I became a coach. And I was single at the time, and his wife, Cindy, saw a young coach that just graduated college, that thought he had a playbook this thick that was going to run the wishbone, the power eye, the speed option, the load option, and get him in a shotgun. And he laughed at me all the time. And Henry Sr. would take me in, and he said, Chad, y'all, come over to the house. So he and Cindy would take me and basically adopted me. And really said, you know what, let me just show you, let me demonstrate for you, let me let you understand that this thing is about relationships. As you build your coaching profession, as you start working in that coaching profession, if that's what you want to do, it's about relationships. And I said, Henry, and he was a big man, and I said, and we called him, because that was small Henry, and we call him Big Henry. I said, Big Henry, and he'd go, and I said, look, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know. And he said, well, whatever you choose to do, you need to understand that it's truly about relationships, and it's about building and putting your brand on it. And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, my dad's a fireman. I've gotten the actuarial field, taken the series of exams, 10 exams, 3 tests. And I said, I'm engaged to Paula. Still got a series of tests that I got to do. I'm going to just coach high school ball for a few more years, and I may get out of it. He said, you better pour your heart and soul in it if you're going to stay in it, because you won't last. And I said, I understand that. And so I started taking the DEA exam. I took the FBI exam. I took the Irving Fire Department exam, the Dallas Fire Department exam. I was trying to do everything I could to see if this was really what God's calling for me was to be. And I remember going down and taking the FBI exam, and that was early 90s, and my math background and my computer background, my statistics background, they were intrigued, but I wasn't very fluent in a second language. And so that kind of axed me. So the DEA calls and do some more and kind of get a little further into that. And they said, well, again, we love your math background, your stats, and your computer, but, you may have to grow your hair long, and you may have to move into the suburbs of some of the cities, but you don't have as much fluent foreign language that we need and second languages. And I said, I understand that. I became number 2 on the list in Irving Fire Department. And I was going to take the job. I'd taken the physical agility test. I'd done everything, the written test. I was already, here I'm going. And I remember one night, going back to what some of my coaches had said, I remember one night, one afternoon late, Paula and I, we were married at this time, and going back to what Henry had told me and shared with me, that making an impact in lives. And I remember a knock on the door, and several of our players showed up. And they come in, and we're sitting talking, and they get word that I'm about to leave. And they're like, wait a minute, you can't leave us, Coach. There's no way. You're making an impact in our lives. And my response at that point was, well, wait a minute, you're going to be leaving me in a few years or next year. You're a senior, and these are basketball players. And I said, they're like, Coach, we got a really good team. You can't leave us, and you're making a huge impact in our lives. And it was at that moment right there, after they left, Paula and I sat and talked, and I said, you know what, maybe this is my calling. Maybe this is what we're meant to be doing, is impacting lives. And it wasn't so much the winning that was what was making the impact. It was the relationships. It was the culture that we established and what we were building in Eustis, Texas. And I still give those guys credit all the time about believing in me. I was trusting. I was 21, 22 years old at the time when I got into this business, just a few years older than the seniors. But the values that we were bringing, that was instilled in me at a very young age from my parents and the high school coaches, I was being able to touch lives, because lives that touched me. And so I get it. I understand. And I know we're all Razorback fans, and you're probably sitting back there going, when's he going to talk football? And I'm going to talk football in just a few minutes. When's he going to tell us who the quarterback is? I'm not going to do that. So go ahead and take another drink. All right? You need to go to the bathroom. You're okay. You're not going to miss it. But I will tell you this. I will tell you this. We've traveled this state. And everybody that I've met across our state has so much passion. It's evident. I mean, it's evident. Every day you come to our practices. We got former players there. We had a phenomenal event last Saturday. We invited former players back, and we had over 300 plus former players they're always welcome. They can come to any practice. But we opened up that scrimmage, and we don't open up scrimmages to anybody, but we do open them up to our former players. And I kept referencing back, and as I was meeting and greeting Saturday in the weight room with all our former players, and I just kept thinking, we got 300 here. I bet you next year we can double this. I bet we can continue to build on this. And I couldn't help but also to realize what Henry would tell me, Big Henry would tell me, and Henry's son, Hank, which I call him Hank, little Henry there, was a sophomore in high school at Eustis, Texas. And I remember going fishing with him, he and his dad, and just seeing the interaction. And as I was interacting with the former players and thinking back to Henry Carter now is the head football coach at Lake Travis High School and worked for me for 10 years. And he was trying to do so much to get out of coaching. He was trying to do so much to move on and progress his career. And so tying both of those together, as I was meeting with those former players and thinking back to Henry and listening to some of the words that Henry had shared with me, he said, Chad, it's about relationships. It's about pouring your heart and soul into everything you got. And so, yes, we had a scrimmage. And that scrimmage was very important to us Saturday, but it was more important for our former players and their families to be welcomed back to a place that they've sweat, they've cried, they've laughed, they've had ups, they've had downs, but they've all worn the logo on the side of that helmet. And it was important for me to bring those players back and their families back so that they could share their passion and they could share their excitement. They've walked those same shoes. They've been in that same fall camp that those current players are in right now. And when they think that they are the only ones, because we live in a society right now that our players right now think they're the only ones that have ever wore that logo. They think that they're the only ones that wear it, and once they finish their playing career, football's going to be over with. And I said, wrong. What you do while you're wearing this logo defines many, many people with how you treat people, how you perform on that football field, and how you perform off that football field. You represent the Arkansas Razorbacks all day long, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And so having our former players back was extremely important. And but again, I've been all over this state. I've sensed the passion. I love it. I'm excited. I know that you're excited. You're excited for September 1st, as I am. We finished fall camp on Saturday after our scrimmage. We broke and got back on the practice field yesterday. School started on Monday. And to be honest with you, looking at fall camp, I think we had a really productive camp. I think there's 4 seasons that we talk about. There's fall camp, there is non-conference play, there's conference play, and then there's bowl season. And then you attack each season like you do every day. You attack it with your best. You attack it with a culture of accountability, a culture of energy and work ethic. And that's what we're about. And I feel like over the last 14, actually the last 18 days, 19 days, this football team has definitely gotten better. Are we where we need to be? Absolutely not. But that's okay. Thank goodness we're not. Thank goodness last Saturday's scrimmage wasn't perfect. I'd be scared to death if it was perfect. We got a lot of work to do, and that's called coaching and developing these young men. But we are on the right page. We're on the right track, and these guys are putting forth all kinds of effort right now. They're excited and ready to get to game week. And yesterday's practice was good. It wasn't great. It wasn't our standard. But I know they'll be excited to be back on that field today. We've got a lot of guys that are competing. We talked a little bit about the quarterback battle, and I'm excited about the battle and what's happening there. We got a great stable of running backs that I'm extremely excited about. I think we've got plenty of depth there. You know, someone's asked me earlier today, said, where do you feel like you have the most depth at? I feel running back is probably the deepest position that we have. Offensive line, as we talked just briefly about our offensive line, I know we've been dealt with some injuries or some step backs, but that's okay. That's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. It's next man up. That's why they give us 85 scholarships. And so it's an opportunity to see someone else step forward. We'll be getting Colton Jackson will be getting back here in the next few weeks, so I'm excited about that. Defensively, I think hiring John Chavis has been a huge plus. Just his culture and his experience has brought a lot to our team. And, you know, he is a very pressure-packed defensive coordinator. You're going to see very different than what you've seen in the past. Our guys are loving it. They're responding to his style of coaching. Going against him every day from an offensive standpoint is absolutely miserable because he brings pressure from all over. You have to look around at water breaks because you feel like pressure is coming. So he's coaching with a sense of pride, and this is, you know, when you start talking about John Chavis, and you look at his historic career and what he'll be a future Hall of Fame coach. He's never started a program with someone. He's always came in after the fact. And so for us to have on the fresh end and on the new beginning of a start, he's really excited about this and changing the culture of that defense. You're going to see a lot of pressure there. Dre Greenlaw and Scooter Harris at our linebacker positions have had a really, really solid camp. I'm excited about the back end. Ryan Pulley, a guy that was injured last year, and it's unfortunate, but he's had a fabulous camp and is doing a really good job at that corner position. Santos Ramirez at safety, one of the leaders of our football team. Cam Curl, if you remember, Cam played true freshman last year, played corner, and his true position is safety. And for us to be able to make that move back to safety for him, he's had a really good camp and feels really comfortable back there, making plays. And you know, Chevin Calloway, another one at our other corner position. I'm excited about him. One of our own in our state, Buster Brown, is had a really good camp. He's come on and he's going to provide us some depth at corner. In our D-line, which I feel like we've got some depth, we're going to have to rotate some of those guys, especially early in the year. But you know, that Randy Ramsey off that defensive end edge is going to provide just a huge spark. He's got unbelievable potential. So I'm excited to watch his senior year. And Gabe Richardson is the other one that's on the other side that has done a great job at our other defensive end and has made it through all the camp and gotten better throughout the course of camp. But, you know, so again, I'm excited about where we are and excited about the kickoff and to see us go against other competition. I'm kind of tired of hitting on each other as the players are, and you kind of get that way this point in time in camp. But here's what I do know. You're going to get their absolute best. You're going to get their best. You're going to see a product on the field that you can be proud of. And I promise you, these guys, through the cultivating, through the planting, and through the growth and the harvest stage, these guys are going to give you everything they got. They're going to make this university proud. They're going to make this community proud. They're going to make this state proud. And if you walk into my office, which is being completed right now, if you walk in, I've got a graphic up, and it says you don't commit to playing for the University of Arkansas, you commit to playing for the entire state of Arkansas. So we understand the value and the impact of the lives and the kitchens and the living rooms and the gyms and the garages and the parks and all across the workplaces in our great state. We understand the obligation we have of impacting each and every one of those areas. And so we don't let that down at all, and we promise you we're going to give you our absolute best, and we're excited about the opportunity. I'm going to close with three things, and I know you've heard me say this before, but I'm very passionate about this. There's three things in life you can't get back. You can't get back, I can't get back. Number one, you can't get back time. Time is something that you know, as a coach, and I shared this the other day, as I walked into a coaching convention a few weeks ago, I remember walking in just a few years earlier, and I thought I was the youngest coach in the whole building. And I walked in the other day, and I'm now one of the older coaches. I'm like, where did that go? You know, so time, you never get time back. I'm the one that always thought that, hey, you know, your kids get older, but mine never will. Chandler and McKenzie will stay 6 and 7 years old for the rest of their life. But no, you can't get time back. Number two, you can't get words back. You got to be careful what you say, what you don't say. Because we have a powerful opportunity to impact lives by just what we say. And nowadays, you have to talk to your kids about what you tweet and retweet, because those are words also. And while I'm saying that, let me share with you, as you impact lives, and I know we got coaches in here that impact lives every day, your own children, you know, let me just say just briefly about them. Make sure you're talking to them. Make sure you're communicating with your own kids, regardless of their age. Make sure you tell them you love them. Again, you can't get that time back. You can't get those words back. And if you're at an age where they're really like a sponge and they're really growing and they're really maturing, and you're not talking to them, let me just give you a news flash. they're listening to somebody. Make sure they're listening to the right person. So as a parent, sometimes we want to be their fans or we want to be their friends. I've told Chandler many times, I had to tell him last night, I don't need another 16-year-old friend. All right? I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to be your dad. I'm here to be to lead you and to direct you. So I challenge you as parents. Sometimes we got to have those hard conversations. Make sure you're talking to your kids, because if not, someone else is. The third thing I'm going to close with is opportunity. We all have an opportunity to impact lives. You got an opportunity to impact lives in your workplace, just as I do in mine. Just so happen I'm on a platform that impacts thousands, millions of lives, and I understand that. But I also know that if we're impacting the lives right in front of us, we'll eventually reach many, many others by doing things the right way. So time, words, and opportunity. We'll never get these opportunities back. We're going to take advantage of it. We look forward to a great year. It's going to be a lot of fun. And know this, a life touches a life that touches a life. There's people on that video that have touched my lives that'll continue to touch these lives at the University of Arkansas. So thank you, and I appreciate you having us out, and go Hogs. Yeah, the question is about our new red shirt rule that comes into effect this year, and I absolutely love it. I think it's what's right for college athletics, and it's right for these student athletes in football. It goes like this: you can take a freshman or say a young man that hasn't redshirt, doesn't have to be a freshman. They can play in 4 games, any 4 games. So you can play them in the first 4 games and then hold them and redshirt them. You can play them in the first game and the last 3 games, including a bowl game, and still be able to redshirt them. So what it allows us to do is it allows to keep these young men engaged. So many times we had to make decisions early in the year and tell a young man that, hey, look, we're going to redshirt you. Well, as we all know, an 18-year-old kid, when he finds out he's going to be redshirted, is disappointed. One, he was always the star of his high school program and can't figure out why he's not the star right now at the University of Arkansas. So you have to say, listen, and so they'll have a tendency to just disengage, and not just mean not going to meetings, but just not paying attention to the small things, the details. And so this allows us to keep these young men involved through the entire season. And guys that maybe not are ready early in the year, they may be ready late in the year. And we've got several of those guys. Now, we've got several freshmen you're going to see play, and you're going to see them play next Saturday, that are ready. And so I love the rule. I think it's what's right, and it allows to keep these young men involved. So, great question. Anyone else? Questions? Now's your time. There's got to be more than one. I know I answered who's the quarterback. Yes, sir.
Coach, do you have any walk-ons that you've been impressed with so far?
Yeah, we've got several walk-ons that have made a huge difference. Grant Morgan being one of them. I know Grant's been a part of this program for several years, and I'm excited about Grant. Grant's got an opportunity where I know he's made huge impact. So from the true freshmen that are in right now, Peyton Osley, a young man that out of Austin, wide receiver. You probably won't see much of him this year, but he has a great future ahead of him. So we got several walk-ons, and now what we did we call split scouts. So a lot of the walk-ons now go over and will service a scout team to the offense and the defense, and be able to continue to work on their craft. But we got to continue. There's no reason why we can't have the best walk-on program in the country with a Burlsworth Award, and what he's done for this program. And so that's my challenge to our coaching staff is, as you're out recruiting, and maybe we don't have an opportunity to offer a young man a scholarship, but just talk about what Brian's done and what that walk-on program would mean at our university. So yeah, absolutely. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
How many actual quarterbacks do you have on the team? And Coach Quarles used to recruit a lot of quarterbacks that he changed up positions because he always felt the quarterback was the best player on the team. Now, do you agree with that kind of philosophy, or do you stick quarterbacks?
Well, yeah, I do. The question was twofold. One, how many quarterbacks do we have on our roster? And we have six quarterbacks on our roster. We've got 5 on scholarship. And Jack Lindsay is another quarterback for us, and Jack is our holder, which will travel with us and gives us an opportunity to do some things from a special team standpoint, to put some stress on some defenses. So we're excited about that. I do feel like not just you say the best athlete on the team. I would agree with that, but I would also agree with they've been around it, they've seen it, they've studied it, and just something about a quarterback that understands the savvy of the game. And I think that goes back to projecting kids. Do you see a young man that you bring in that was a quarterback, and we've got several guys on our team that played quarterback in high school that are now a safety, or now that they're a corner. And so to be able to project them to another position is huge. And you start at that quarterback position. We've had several guys that play in a wishbone offense and they're the quarterback. And, man, that guy would be a great nickel Sam. He'd be a nickel backer. I mean, whatever it may be. So, that's but you better have that conversation with that quarterback early on, because, some of those guys are used to getting hit, not hitting somebody. So you have to, especially if you're going to move on the defensive side of the ball. But yeah, I think that's a position that we look and try to project when we look at them. Maybe they can't play quarterback for us, but they can play something. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Coach, what freshman players do you anticipate making an impact? Specifically, do you think either of the freshman quarterbacks will get any playing time this year?
Well, back to the red shirt rule, I anticipate, you're going to play them at some point. I think the biggest freshman that we have right now that's made the biggest impact, really, there's 2 major ones that I could see. Joe Fouché being one of them at the safety position, Miles Mason being another one at the safety position. Those 2 young men have had really, really good camps. I'm really excited about those guys. We've got, I don't know if there was anybody, those guys have really stood out the most. That I'm anticipating. There's no way I can't anticipate, unless an injury happens, those guys with red shirt. So. All right. Well, I look forward to seeing y'all September 1st. Go Hogs. Thank you.